Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Eminoff, and I am joined with the 2018 past state president of the Women's Council of Realtors, Florida, Cindy DeCoster. Thank you so much for being with us today, Cindy.
Thank you, Lorianne.
I appreciate it. Just wanted to give you an opportunity to give us an introduction about yourself so we can get to know you a little better.
Okay. Um, from real estate to women's council. So I started real estate in 2001. I was licensed in 2001. Um, my husband and I started a team kind of right away. He went in to real estate right away. I went live, if you will, live or full time in about 2003 when my son was about 6 months old. So I've always been a um, parent as a realtor. So having the balance of real estate and home life was really important to me. So it was very do you know it had to work in order to support our family because we were 100% real estate family. My daughter came along a quick uh my kids are 20 months apart, let's just say it that way. So our kids are 20 months apart and now they are 20 and 21.
Mhm.
So my entire career has kind of been through the age of my kids, if you will. So that's kind of been the benchmark of a lot of my buyers and sellers. They're like, "Oh, I you sold this home to me when you were pregnant with Riley, or when you were Sean Paul was this old or that old." So it's been a very benchmarked by my kids' age, and now they are juniors and about to start their junior and senior year at Florida State. So it's been a kind of a wild ride. It's been a very intentional balance um, of real estate work, real estate work and family. And the Women's Council came into my radar or onto my radar in 2007 when the real estate market tanked, if we will. And, my husband and I were very successful, fortunately, pretty early on. We were, um, again, with young kids, we really didn't have time to play around. It was very important for us to just get work done and get back to raising kids. So, um, we were everything was moving and grooving along kind of from the very beginning for us. And all of a sudden, it just dried up.
Mhm.
We, we used to have a board on, like a production board that was like our listings, pendings, and sales. So our listings kept increasing and our pendings kept moving to closings, but we never really got that pending board moving. And that was started like the summer of 2006 is what my husband will tell you. So by 2007, we were kind of like, whew, somebody changed the rules and didn't tell us, and so education, again, if I wasn't making money, I was with my children. And at that time, if you're doing the math, my son would have been 5 and my daughter would have been 3. So again, very active, very failure is not an option. We're all in. So I was all into fixing the problem of real estate.
Yeah.
And Women's Council had a lot of education classes, and that was interesting to me. So that's kind of what attracted me to Women's Council. I'm also a troubleshooter, so I'm like, why are our listings not selling? I think at the time we had like 17 listings and like couldn't beg a buyer to come look at one. So I looked we had a magazine, and all the things, they were either big brokers, small brokers, independents. It didn't really matter. The one thing that they had in common though was that they were Women's Council. So
Mm.
that's really what got me wondering, who are these people and what are they doing? And that I don't know, like, what do they know that I don't know? And then I saw these classes that they were offering. So then I got interested in their classes. And so again, I'm kind of an observer before, kind of learn before I speak kind of thing. And and so, you know, again, 2007, 2008, it was like failure was not an option. It was like everything was going to fire sales, and it was ridiculous. So, um 2009, I kind of got the tap on the shoulder and was just like, we just need you to take notes. All of the board was crumbling. Everybody had left the industry, let alone left Women's Council. So it wasn't really that they left Women's Council, it's they left the industry,
Right.
and Women's Council was a byproduct of what they left, if you will. So that's how I kind of got on the board. Was I got the tap, like, please help us. All you have to do is take notes. Well, taking notes in 2009 led to all kinds of movements, all the way up to state president of 2018. And wow, it's been an incredible journey, and it's kind of cool to see a lot of the things that we did then kind of coming back, if you will. We really should have never left the things that we were doing, but busy takes over productive
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, that kind of segues really nicely into the next question, which talks, really about what were some of the significant initiatives that, during your presidency, and how have you seen them continue to play out, within the organization to today?
So, um, again, when I came into the council, it was during a very locally, it was a very trying, everybody was just trying to help each other to fix what was going on in the
Yeah.
industry. And what was tough was that it was important to clear out the foreclosures off the market. We were flooded by them, and you really were. It was difficult for a homeowner to sell their home against a foreclosure or a short sale. So locally, we our board, Women's Council board, paired up with the association, or Osceola County Realtor Association, and put on the SFR, the short sale and foreclosure
Mm.
designation. And we sold that out, that class, and increase so many people's awareness of short sales, let alone give them the designation. But moreover, what it did is it highlighted the Women's Council and the role we were playing in the market and locally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or the industry and locally the market. So we actually doubled our membership almost directly from that class that during that time. Um, the other thing that we did, because we had to think outside of the box, everybody, again, people like to talk that the interest rate is gone crazy, but the interest rate's not crazy. The interest rate's back to normal. What was crazy was the 2 and 3% that was going on, and what was crazy is the 9 and 10 and 12% that were going on prior to the bubble bursting, right? So this is normal. This is actually normal. So we're back to normal, and people think that it's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, so what we did is we had to kind of go, okay, people don't have disposable money, but we need them to come to our educations. So we stopped all the frivolous stuff
Mhm.
that costs money, that costs time, and got really down to the very, very bare minimum and basics. The purse auction was kind of came from my girlfriend up in Ocala. So when we were talking up ahead of this, so when I was a local president, my right hand girls were um, Nora Merrick from Brevard, now the Space Coast, and Ellie Trahan, who is the president of Ocala Marion. And the three of us did a lot together. And we kind of shared and moved ideas back and forth. And the purse auction, actually, they called it the old bags luncheon back in the day.
That's great.
And it has since evolved, right, to now what it is. But back then, that purse auction was gently used purses. And Ellie came with her girls from Ocala to Osceola County and helped us put this on. They donated their time, their extra handbags, all kinds of stuff that now today it's these designer purses and all these things, brand new. That's not how it began. It's not. It began Ellie Trahan in Ocala, Marion, coming in huge like black trash bags of these beautiful gently used purses, and that's how we raised money for our network to even survive, like to survive, not thrive yet. We were just trying to survive. um and so we had to again like rethink things differently that would cost us no money. So our local association allowed us to meet in their facility, and use their space for free so that we could take the money of the room rental out. We took lunches out. We just said, you know what, bring a lunch if you want. Occasionally we had some sponsors that were like, oh, we'll bring in sandwiches, or we'll, so everything became like bare bones. Like it was, we were kind of on ramen noodles,
Right.
budget, right?
Right.
So we kind of like got to the brass tacks of it all. We were there to network with each other, help each other build up our businesses, and rebuild our local real estate market. And we did it through Women's Council, and we did it all together. So I don't know that that's really necessarily, I could own it as an initiative, but that is really where we like pulled everybody together and we just leaned on each other. And I went to Ocala. I can't even tell you how many times. Ocala came to Orlando, Osceola County so many times. We went to Brevard so many times. Like I can't even tell you. Like there was not a my network, your network. It was our network. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
No, and
So
it sounds like collaboration and, kind of leveraging really kind of sounds like, was your forte, so to speak. So how would you say your overall leadership style was, especially not only at the local level, but then all those that skill set kind of that you facilitated that, you utilized at the state level?
interesting. Good question. So I am a hospitality management major. I kind of came from a hotel background, and then segue from there, I went into distribution of metal of all things.
Oh, wow.
So so you talk about like fluffy pillow hotels to really literally carbon tubing and aluminum pipes, right? But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. What it mattered was the people and their needs, and could you fill them, right? So I learned that before I ever came into real estate. Those were kind of where that's kind of where I came from. And I joke and say that I got into real estate to get out of management because that's my background. And the Women's Council is like pulled me kind of back in. And what it is not management. It's really, it is truly leadership. Like your passion, your drive is a magnet to attract other people to do what needs to get done. And it separates management from leadership in such a big way. And I think oftentimes I look back because I was obviously in my 20s when I was doing all of that, because I started real estate in my 30 when I was 30. I just told my age, didn't I? But but if I, as a manager, and taking it as a manager's hat instead of a leadership hat, I could have been so much more effective. So you take that pre-real estate, insert real estate, then insert Women's Council, and you kind of mash it together. And it just led to amazing doors opening. People were asking me for they were offering me jobs after, job, and pulled me back into management. And the truth is that management, it really is leadership.
Yeah.
And if you are just a manager, you hold people's quote, livelihood over their head, if you will, right? If you don't do your job, you don't get paid, you get fired, right? Like that's kind of what a manager's hierarchy of thinking might be. But in leadership, there's there's no money involved. It is you're asking people to do things not because you want them to do them. It's because together we get stronger and bigger, and we can actually move, in the case of the Women's Council, women in business forward. If we really break down, again, I don't want to stop on my high horse, but I do always tend to like bug up when I talk about this. It's Our mission statement says everything that you need to know about the Women's Council.
Right.
We're a network of successful realtors. So that's who we are. What do we do? We are here to advance women in business. Like that's our job. It doesn't matter about what other organizations you come from, what other uh groups you work with. That's our focus. Like that's what we do. We advance women in business. And then where do we do it? In the industry and the communities we serve. So our mission statement really spells out everything that you need to know about the council and why you should be part of it.
Right.
So for me, it just became one of those, like, it helped me divide, like it helped me go, management and leadership shouldn't be separate. They really are the same. And if you are running your network, your business, your home, your everything as a business, and you're managing it versus leading it, you're really missing the mark. And it's a way heavier lift. But if you actually attract people to you and what you stand for and why you stand with the council, then you don't have to do such heavy lifting. Everybody wants to do it together. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And it segues beautifully into the next question, which has to do with mentorship. I mean, obviously mentorship and leadership kind of go hand in hand. And I always say that mentorship in a way is like two directional, because while we think that we may be mentoring, we may be receiving mentorship from someone else, we have the ability also to mentor other people. So just wanted to kind of talk to you about what impact you believe your mentorship has had, not only on council members within the state of Florida, but even nationally, fostering growth and development locally. I mean, there's just like, it runs the gamut.
It does. It really does. And again, when you're doing things from your heart for the good it can be done versus the title that it can have, call it mentorship, call it leadership, call it management, whatever title you put on it, it's really kind of one and the same. And it is often humbling when people say, oh, Cindy's one of my mentors, or Cindy mentored me through this. And I'm like, girl, we just were talking. Like you know what I mean? It wasn't an intentional, it wasn't like, oh, go do this homework. It was, talk to me, tell me what's going on, how do I, how can I help? Just being present is really what it's about. And people who I hold super dear, that have been above and beyond great to me, have been, from national president, Anne DeFreeze and um uh, uh,
Davis.
Anita Davis, thank you. Like, and Cindy Reddy, like, they're literally on the ready, speed dial, phone call, think nothing of it. Like,
Yeah.
they talk to me like they think nothing of it. They're because they serve from their hearts. They really are they really are who they are. And they don't do it because they're national president or because they hold these different big titles and stuff like that. Like, it's just in their core, if you will. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And so for me, they've allowed me to be myself around them without feeling like, oh my God, I'm talking to the national president. I just, and I don't say it to be like sarcastic, like they're real
Mhm.
people. And so they allowed me to be a real person. So I just have always stayed real with everybody, whether they're, an agent that just joined real estate, or they're a member that just joined women's council, or they're serving up and on the lines. It doesn't matter. Like if you're a person in need and I can help, then I'm going to do that.
I love it. Can you discuss any of the advocacy campaigns that were spearheaded during your presidency in Florida? What was the goal? Was it achieved? I know advocacy is huge in the real estate industry. So just wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of talk about a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I was treasurer of Florida, and I know that I wrote checks every year to RPAC, the Real Estate Political Action Committee. And Florida State was always a state major investor. So it's not a new initiative. It's not a new something that just happened. It was from, you know, ever since I was involved on the state finance committee, which is before I became state treasurer. We've been a major investor. So, and National Women's Council of Realtors National has always put out these um, I guess not always, but they started doing these infographics that had, what percentage of women's council serves on National Association of Realtors, or how many, what percentage of women's council are major investors. And it kind of became this awareness that we actually have a big voice. And if we actually all sang together out of the same hymnal, we'd actually be a really louder and prouder voice. So I don't know that that was necessarily a new initiative. It was definitely when we started pooling and seeing the numbers, it became another, again, that magnitude, that magnet that says, we actually do this naturally. And if you go to, again, if most of us are involved at our association level, and if you're involved at the association level, you're aware of Great American Realtor Days, which is when the realtors go up to Tallahassee and they meet with the legislature, and push and lobby for homeownership rights, and all of the initiatives that are on the table to be voted on. So when you start going to that and you start realizing, half of this crowd is women's council,
Right.
and you start going to your individual brokerage, their conventions, and you're like, we're such a large crowd. And again, it's like we're magnetic. Like you just feel them almost before you see them, if you will, right? And so there's just this gravitational pull. And so when we started highlighting it, if you will, started talking about it, it got bigger. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's not a new initiative. It's not about fancy pins or big names or anything like that. At the end of the day, we are a group of successful realtors advancing women in business. And that's where we are. And we move in this large pack that just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The more we talk about our issues, we have the same, that like what you're dealing with down in Broward is the same thing I'm dealing with up in Orlando and Osceola County. Like we have similar issues. They may be individually, might have individual zip code differences,
Right.
but housing shortages and insurance prices, and commercial sales tax, like those are the things that is an industry connection, and women's council is the larger layer that kind of connects us all and pulls us underneath that one umbrella that is handling the same kind of reigning cause.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. And I think that it really, the kind of the advocacy, I always say advocacy starts at home.
Yep.
And you should know your elected officials far beyond going to Tallahassee, and I kind of do feel like when we all do go to Tallahassee, it is such a great opportunity to exactly what you're saying, to kind of be in, kind of have a voice in numbers. But the reality is that, every single area within the state has their different things that are going on, but then there's these large overarching issues that, like I said, can impact, and obviously really kind of impact a transaction in a negative way. If you're not able to get insurance on a property, we can't close, things of that nature. So I do feel that that kind of side of having, the not only the ability to know what's going on in your own backyard, but then at the same time being able to articulate it when, on a state scale is huge. It's enormous. So I really do believe that, we can be very impactful in those ways. So
And I think
yeah,
that,
go ahead.
again, when we come together, and kind of, again, kind of talk together about the same issues, and
Yeah,
it just says, you know what, it's not a Broward issue. It's a real estate issue. It's a
right.
Florida issue.
Yep.
And so yeah, and again, it's kind of like the more you know, the more you want to know, and everything that you do, at least everything I do, gets me kind of fired up for the next thing. And it's like, well, wait a minute, what does that mean? How did that? And then all of a sudden you're like peeling back this other layer. You're like, oh yeah, I'm happy to help you over here too. And like, that's, I mean, that's the strength of the council in a big way.
Yeah, I agree. Um, so kind of as we, come to a close here on our time, and leadership is one of those, it's a journey. So wanted to give you an opportunity to share any sage words of wisdom or stories. If I knew then what I know now type of things would you like to share with members?
Oh gosh. So if I if I knew then what I know now, that's a loaded question. Because there's, you can go, I would have gotten involved earlier, right?
Yeah.
Um, I would have started younger with everything, right? That's like, you know, um, with every, in every facet, whether it's investing or kind of rallying the cause, and rather than shying away from management and being afraid of that, and understanding like, no, this is like kind of like your um opportunity to influence change. And that's, to me, I think that's been the most magnetic um, thing that's kept me glued to servant leadership. Um, I, you know, I loved my time on the council. It's been the most rewarding platform that has kind of given me a springboard to other things, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I wouldn't have had the eye opening to management versus leadership if it wasn't for the council kind of nudging, just take notes, Cindy, back in the
Always
day.
how it starts.
but but here's the honest thing. So people see in you things you don't see in yourself. So I think that um the the bad stuff is so much easier to, like, oh yeah, to take than actually the compliments and the opportunities that are presented. And so I think that I would be more open and less hesitant to embrace change and new things. If the real estate market of the 2000, you know 7, 8 to like 12 has taught me anything, it is to pay attention, be present. Everything stems from something. Don't, don't keep whacking a mole, is what, there's, I always quote Fierce Conversations. It's definitely my like my spirit animal. That book has changed my life. Hence Fierce Realty. Um, but that book changed my life. There's a story in there that says that talks about a high school kid wasn't allowed to go out and play or do whatever, go out with his friends until he eradicated the mole situation in his yard. And so he tried everything from, putting flooding the holes that the moles were digging, to putting firecrackers down the holes, and like doing all these kind of crazy things trying to get rid of the moles, when in fact what actually eradicated the moles is when you took out the chinch bugs, which is their food source.
Oh,
So it was set, like, to me, I like, kid of the 80s, like the whack-a-mole in the arcade is like such a visual for me. And so that story really resonated with me. And I think that's so profound in life. We spend so much of our time whacking a mole instead of like slowing things down and going, okay, what's causing them to show up in my yard? What's the reason, so I can get rid of this guy, but the next one's going to come back tomorrow. And so you're just constantly just moving the symptom, but you're never eradicating the problem. So for me, that would probably be my don't whack a mole, like find the source of the problem, like get to the root of it. And really don't be afraid to embrace things that are difficult, like, again, fierce conversations. Don't be afraid to have that like difficult conversation, that difficult reality that, I need to do things differently. The market's changed. So now I need to change. And so it's not gonna go back. It's kind of like one of those examples of like a rubber band. Like once you stretch your rubber band, it's never the same. It's not, it's different. So same with us and real estate. Once it's changed, it's never going to squeeze back into that same shape. So you need to kind of be flexible. So going back to, I think one of the questions you asked me earlier was, did I have a theme? Well, my year was about fierce, focus, and flexible. And the mantra was, you need to be fiercely focused on your goals, but flexible enough to attain them.
love
So
it.
don't change the goal. Still need to eradicate the moles, right? You still need, that's the goal, but be flexible in how you do it. So you don't, what's one size doesn't fit all, but the goal is still to get to those pants, right? So like be flexible enough that you have to be able to change what you're doing so that you can still attain the goal. Don't change the goal just because things got difficult.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much again, Madam Past President Cindy DeCoster. This has been a wonderful, not only to get to know you better, but at the same time, get an opportunity to share all these of your wisdom and nuggets of gold, and really encourage members to kind of, wherever they are, and whatever kind of resonates with them, to be able to take it and be able to connect with other, not only leaders on a state level, but even on a national level, and be able to just, kind of all, we're all interconnected in like a kind of like a web-like way, but in an amazing way. So
Absolutely.
truly appreciate your time today. And again, thank you so much. And it was a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to share my number and email if I can help anybody. If you've got any questions about the council or how to get involved or what to do first, or um, I'm just a phone call or an email away.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.